I've been watching a lot of the news since the bill passed, and I've been on YouTube on the political forums, and exactly what I thought was going to happen has happened. The liberals have literally exploded. They are, I can't even believe there's any liberals left because their heads are popping at such a rapid rate right now, and they are absolutely losing their minds, like we knew they would do. Well, we have this one, a Representative Val Hoyle from Oregon, which that alone should tell you exactly how this video is going to turn out because her name's Val Hoyle from Oregon. And she's a representative over there who apparently has no understanding whatsoever about taxes and how to fill out your taxes and simply does not understand what Trump's no tax on tips does for that industry. Let's watch the video.
As a waitress before they raised the tipped wage to $213. And I can tell you, never once did I itemize my taxes. Because when you're making that kind of money, you don't itemize your taxes, you take the standard deduction. So all this no tax on tips, it really doesn't work for normal people who use the standard deduction. So it's just a talking point. And my constituents, the constituents who are going to lose their jobs in my rural communities, who are working on the wind farms, who are working on the infrastructure projects that just got canceled, who work in tourism, because tourism has really gone downhill because of tariffs and because international visitors are afraid to come to the United States. So our tourism industry is being crushed. All of those people can't eat a talking point. They can't pay their rent with a talking point. They can't buy birthday presents for their kids with a talking point. That's all this is a talking point. But still, we got the richest 1% that are gonna they're gonna make bank. I think trickle-down cruelty is probably the best way I've ever heard to describe it. And we all know it has been proven over and over again. Trickle-down economics doesn't work for working people.
All right, so needless to say, she's a complete idiot. Just because you were a terrible waitress and you made the absolute bottom dollar in tips doesn't mean everybody's bad at that job. That is a necessary job. People, especially where I live, hells, you can't even go out to eat on any night of the week without having to wait anymore. And these restaurants are full of servers. And I got to be honest, I know servers. I know bartenders that make $50,000, $60,000 a year. So you can't sit here and tell me that this no tax on tips is not going to affect them at all. Just because you made so little money from being a terrible waitress doesn't mean that everybody else does. And let's get something else straight. Now, if you're 16, 17, 18 years old and you're working in the server industry or whatever industry you're working in, chances are you're going to do, the 1040 easy form and just take the standard deductions. But if you are of age to where you are living on your own, you have your own place, apartment, house, whatever it may be, house, car, motorcycle, whatever it is, or maybe you're young and you just got married. Regardless of the case, if you are not itemizing your taxes, well, then that's on you for being an idiot, just like it's on Val here for being an idiot. If you take the 1040 easy form, all you're doing is throwing money out the window. And like I said, just because she's an idiot doesn't mean that this is not going to work. So what's going to happen here is taxes. President Trump is giving you a break on your taxes on $20,000 worth of tips. All right? $20,000. Think about that for a minute. That can add up to be quite a bit of money over the course of a year. You have this woman on here who's completely clueless and apparently doesn't understand taxes in the economy at all, over here ranting that it's a talking point. And like I said, just because she was such a bad waitress, she didn't make any money, that does not mean a lot of people don't. But here's the difference, all right? She took the easy way because she's a brainless, smooth brain liberal. If you're not itemizing, we itemize everything. I started itemizing my taxes when I was 23 years old because the job I had, there was an inherent cost, all right? I worked in a hospital. I had to buy scrubs. I had to buy shoes. I had to buy all kinds of things. And I wrote that off on my taxes because these are things I had to have for my job. Well, the same thing for a waitress. She's got to have clothes. She's got to have shoes. There are things she needs for a job. She's got to drive to and fro work. So you can write off some of your mileage for that. And just because she's an idiot, I guess she assumes that everybody must be an idiot. Because I'm going to tell you, we write off everything. Like I said, I started itemizing when I was 23 years old. Everything you see in this room has been written off because of my other YouTube channel, which is monetized, my music channel. So I write off all of my gear. I write off all my music equipment because I am in a working, performing band. We make money, so I write off gear. That's how that works. That's why it is there. That's why it's set up that way. All the stuff in my wood shop, I write off. We make wood products. We sell wood products. So therefore, I have to buy tools. So therefore, I write off the tools. And it's amazing to me that this person is a representative in any state. But it doesn't surprise me that much that she's a representative in Oregon, because let's be honest, that's the liberal haven up there. Oregon, New York, Washington, all right there. We should just call that the liberal belt, because that's what it is, the liberal belt up in there. And that's why, you got to think, isn't it Oregon that pretty much the right side of the state wants to defect from Oregon and join, Idaho, I believe? Because Oregon is so chock full of idiotic liberals like Val here that they feel they're not getting a fair shake. So they want to just get out of the state. They want to just redraw the lines and join another state that is a red state that supports America, unlike the liberal states that do not support America. But let's get something else straight here, just from her insane ranting video. First off, people from other countries that are tourists are not afraid to come to America. That is an ignorant statement only made by a Democrat. What, you think you're going to come to America completely legal and you're going to get snapped up and thrown in prison? No, absolutely not. That is stupid, and that is the talking points that the liberals want you to believe. And unfortunately, a lot of people do believe it, which is shocking to me that they believe anything that comes out of a liberal's mouth after the last 4 years of lying about Joe Biden and our economy. Remember inflation, 9.5%? Remember, it was just transient. It was transient. It's not a big deal. It's transient. Yeah, we saw what a big deal it was when the price of everything across America got jacked up 30% under Joe Biden's watch from his transient inflation. So how can anybody believe anything that comes out of a liberal's mouth anymore? Because over 4 years, all they did was lie to us endlessly over and over and over. Even though you see A, they're telling you B, and to believe B because your eyes are lying about A. And they pushed that on us for 4 years. And the other thing about her, the billionaires, they're 1%, the 1%ers, and all the money that they're going to save from Donald Trump's tax cuts. Well, let's get something straight, all right? I'm not a billionaire. Not even close. Never will be a billionaire. Hell, I'm not even a millionaire. May never be a millionaire. Okay. Well, you know what? Life goes on. I'm not going to wake up and cry about it tomorrow. But I do know throughout my career, I worked for billionaires, because the billionaires are the ones who created the jobs for me to have a job. And it's pretty simple. The more money billionaires save, the more money they make. That is true. But the more money they make, what do billionaires do? Billionaires want to make more money. So they take that money and they invest it into other businesses, which hires other people. All these Democrats, all right, that have regular jobs, all the Democrats that work for Apple, who hate the oligarchy, who hate the man. How much money do you think Tim Cook's worth? Do you think Tim Cook's worth, $100,000? Seriously? Or is Tim Cook a billionaire? Well, Tim Cook is a billionaire. Think about this, people. All the Democrats that work for Microsoft. Isn't Bill Gates a billionaire? But we hate billionaires. We hate them. And we hate when they get tax cuts. Because when they get tax cuts, they make more money. And then when they make more money, they create more jobs for more people. And we hate that. This is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard of in my life. And this is why Democrats are Democrats. They simply don't have the ability to think past their nose. Because Democrats can only see what's directly in front of them. Even if it's a lie, that is all they see. Somehow, Democrats have put themselves in a box. And they simply don't know how to get out of that box. And it's evident right now in what we're watching. They have a 17% approval rating? I mean, give me a break. The Democrats are absolutely, they're a clueless, leaderless party. And this is the reason why right here. And I've said this 1,000 times, and I've said it to a million people, and I've said it on this channel. Relax. Let's see what happens, then react. Let's not react now, because chances are you're going to look like a fool when you're proven wrong.